At Monster High, whispers always followed Twyla. She was the daughter of the boogeyman, quiet and shadowy, slipping through hallways like smoke. Most students thought she was shy, but some noticed how she lingered near the old library's basement, her pale fingers brushing against a wall that looked wrong. One night, Frankenstein followed her. Twyla pressed her hand against the stone, and the wall rippled like water. A door appeared, tall, crooked, carved with symbols that seemed to move when you weren't looking. Frankie swore she heard a low hum, like the building itself was breathing. Twyla whispered, "This is where the nightmares live." Inside, the air was thick, heavy with whispers. Shelves lined the walls, but instead of books, they held jars filled with shadows. Each jar pulsed faintly, as if something inside was alive. Frankie reached for one, but Twyla stopped her. "Don't touch them. They're the dreams people forget. If you break one, it comes back, hungry." Suddenly, the jars began to rattle. One cracked open, spilling black mist that twisted into a shape, a figure with hollow eyes and a mouth that stretched too wide. Frankie screamed, but Twyla only stared. "It knows you now," she said softly. "Once you see the door, it never forgets you." The next day, Frankie tried to tell the others, but the basement wall was solid stone again. No door, no hum, no jars. Only Twyla, watching from the shadows, her eyes glowing faintly. And sometimes, when the lights flicker in Monster High, students swear they hear a jar rattling, waiting to break. Draculaura had always been sensitive to the moods of her friends. She noticed Twyla growing quieter than usual, her eyes darting toward the basement whenever the group passed the library. Frankie seemed pale too, avoiding questions and biting her lip whenever the subject came up. One evening, Draculaura cornered Frankie in the coffin-shaped lounge. "Spill it, ghoul. What's going on with Twyla?" Frankie hesitated, then whispered about the door, the jars, and the shadow that escaped. Draculaura's fangs tingled with unease. "That's not just creepy, that's dangerous." Meanwhile, Rebecca's team had been hearing strange noises in the gears of her mechanical heart, faint whispers that didn't belong. She traced them back to the basement, where the stone wall seemed to vibrate with a pulse. Rebecca's sensors detected energy leaking from somewhere beyond. The two confronted Twyla. She stood in the shadows, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for anyone else to see. The door, it's not mine to control. It's hungry." The lights flickered. A low hum filled the hallway. Draculaura grabbed Rebecca's hand. The wall rippled again, and the crooked door appeared, glowing faintly. From behind it, jars rattled. One shattered. A shadow spilled out, crawling across the floor like liquid night. Draculaura gasped, "Twyla, what have you done?" Twyla's eyes glowed brighter. "It's too late. Once the door opens, it never closes." Spectra Vondergeist floated silently through the halls of Monster High, her ghostly form phasing through walls as she searched for whispers of gossip. But tonight, the whispers weren't about students, they were coming from the basement. Drawn by the eerie hum, she drifted down to the library's lower level. The wall rippled, and the crooked door appeared again. Draculaura and Rebecca stood frozen, while Twyla's glowing eyes reflected the nightmare beyond. Spectra's translucent body trembled. She could hear voices, not the usual chatter of spirits, but screams. The jars inside the door rattled violently, shadows pressing against the glass like trapped animals. One shattered, spilling black mist that slithered toward her, the mist wrapped around her ghostly form, pulling at her essence. For the first time, Spectra felt fear, true fear. "It's trying to drag me back," she gasped, her voice echoing unnaturally. Draculaura tried to pull her away, but her hands passed through Spectra's body. Rebecca's gears whirred frantically as she scanned the energy. Twyla whispered, "The door feeds on fear. It knows you're afraid, Spectra. That's why it wants you." The shadow's hollow eyes locked onto Spectra, and the jars began to shatter one by one. The basement filled with whispers, screams, and the sound of glass breaking. Spectra shrieked, "Close it! Close the door!" But Twyla only shook her head. "It doesn't close. Not anymore."